There's a version of Nigel Farage that's genuinely hard to beat. Relaxed, quick, always with an answer. Someone heckles him, he bats it away and makes them look small. A journalist catches him in a contradiction, he shrugs, he grins and he pivots before they've finished the question.
So Jim Ratcliffe himself is an economic migrant, isn't he? He lives in Monaco. Should he speak French or Monegasque living there?
He would probably argue that he's a refugee from the British tax system, but that's a separate debate.
His political skill, and for about 30 years it's been his best one. That version seems to be having a rough couple of weeks. Okay, yes, this is another Nigel Farage video. I know, I am very aware of that, and at some point I will do something about it. But this week he's given me something I haven't been able to say about him before, and once I'd seen it, I couldn't unsee it. So here we are. And we've had about 3 press conferences in the space of 3 days. And I'm guessing it's after the by-election, he's just doubling down to try and get as much airtime as possible. And across all of them, you can see there's little moments where you can see the mechanism grinding. Small things, but they add up. And the one thing happened today in Newport, Wales, where he told an unemployed woman to go back to work, then remembered she didn't have a job and laughed about it. At his own event, on camera, to a crowd full of his supporters. So on Tuesday, Farage was doing what he'd been doing a lot just lately, talking about the Gorton and Denton by-election result, which Reform lost, and explaining that the problem wasn't the result, it was the system. Family voting, postal vote harvesting, fraud, whatever you want to call it. Either way, the election was compromised. That is his position. So LBC asked him a question, very simple question, but listen to what he actually says for his answer.
And again, Mr Farage, if I could ask you about postal voting, you spoke about it again there. It was reported that at the last election you voted by post.
So?
Well, I'm saying, should politicians set an example to get more people voting in person?
I did vote by post at the last election, although I think I did actually turn up at the polling station with the ballot. So I received my postal vote. But I did actually deliver it on the day. But whatever.
But whatever? He can't even get his own story straight. Did he post it? Did he deliver it? Is he not sure? And rather than just finding a smooth way through it, which Farage probably 6 months ago would have done in his sleep, he just trails off with "but whatever" and moves on. It's a tiny moment, but it's not the move of someone who's comfortable. Then today, Farage was in Wales for Reform's Wales Manifesto launch. He's supposed to be in Clacton, obviously, where his constituents are. Dan Thomas, the Reform's Wales leader, thanks him for visiting Wales 6 times in 6 months, apparently as a mark of dedication. 6 times in 6 months to a country he doesn't represent. Anyway, it was ITV's turn this time, with Kate Fenson asking the obvious question. Is this a Welsh election about Welsh people, or is it really just about getting Farage into number 10? And again, listen to what he says in his answer.
Nigel Farage, you spent much of your speech this morning talking about events in Westminster, attacking Keir Starmer. Dan, you talked about getting Nigel into number 10. This is a Welsh election, it's about Welsh people. Or is this just about getting you to number 10?
It's a Welsh election, but I'm afraid whether you like it or not, it doubles up as a referendum on Keir Starmer's premiership.
A referendum. That word. Now, cast your mind back to the by-election, with Matt Goodwin, Reform's chief academic cheerleader, never more than 6 feet away from a camera when there's a narrative to push. He posted this on Twitter.
This by-election is actually a referendum. It's a referendum on Keir Starmer. Let me say that again. This by-election is a referendum on Keir Starmer.
And he said it quite a lot during the campaign. Now, Hannah Spencer of the Greens won the majority of around 4,500 and Reform lost decisively. Now, most people, having called something a referendum and then lost it by 4,500 votes, might retire that particular framing. Oh no, not Reform. Now they're using the same word, just in a new location. Presumably different results are incoming. But also in the very same speech at Newport, Farage described Gorton and Denton as this.
Including politics, where we now see sectarian voting, where we now see third world style election rigging, as we saw in Gorton and Denton just a few days ago.
That's how he explained the loss. Not that the Reform candidate wasn't good enough, not that the voters chose somebody else. Rigging. That's what he's going with. So the pattern is this: call a referendum, lose it, blame fraud, and then just declare the next one a referendum too. Wales is just the current iteration. Now, reforms, losing elections and blaming frauds isn't new. Farage has been doing that for years. What different lately is the delivery. Now, can you remember at the start of this video where I said there is a version of Farage that would bat these things away? Well, that version of Farage would have sold this smoothly, aggrieved but controlled, planting a seed of doubt without looking rattled. That's the version that works. What we're getting instead is something slightly more frantic. The but whatever on postal votes, the flat assertion of the same press conference that Matt Goodwin actually came first among British-born voters, stated as a certainty with no evidence, because, well, there is none.
I'm absolutely convinced that amongst British-born voters, Matthew Goodwin came first in that election last week. Of that, I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever.
And the cheap shots of the Greens. These are the verbal tics of someone who's slightly off their game. Not catastrophically, but, just noticeably. And then Newport. A woman in the crowd starts heckling. Farage, smooth enough, tells her to go back to work. Standard dismissal, gets a laugh. Then something else happens. Someone tips him off or he works it out and he comes back to the microphone. Now, of course, the place is full of Reform voters, so Reform crowd there laughs and they laugh again. But this is the man whose entire political identity rests on understanding people who've been looked down upon, talked over and dismissed by people who think they're better than you. That's their pitch. That's been the pitch for 30 odd years. And in an unscripted moment, when there's no spin doctor in his ear, when he has an unemployed woman show up at an event and make some noise, the instinct is to mock her for not having a job.
A handful of people elected. Oh, sorry, darling, you having a rough morning? Did you get out the wrong side of the bed? It's all right. That's all right. You always get the odd screamer at these events. It's all right. You can go back to work. Go back to work. Well, I did say to her, go back to work, but of course, she hasn't got a job, has she? But it's okay, and we can expect much more of that, because there are many fearful of just how well we could do in these elections here in Wales.
It's not a gotcha to have to explain. It lands on its own. And I'll be honest, there's a rumour circulating on social media that his constituents in Clacton started calling him Nigel Farage because they never know if he's there or not. I mean, obviously I can't verify that, so take it with a pinch of salt. But I can verify his attendance record, and I can verify that this week he was in Newport, not Clacton, and that Don Thomas thanked him for being there when it was if it was something to be proud of. The charm has always been the engine. That's what made the contradiction survivable. If you're likeable enough, quick enough, the gaps between what you say and what you do are easier to cover over. The postal votes thing is a paper cut on its own. The heckler moment is a paper cut on its own. But they're happening in the same week, and they're pointing in the same direction. He's still the same Nigel Farage. It's just now that the act is starting to show its age, and I really, really hope people are starting to see the man for who he really is.